Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of X-Men the Animated Series Season 4, Episode 12, Proteus Part 2. This originally came out October 7th, 1995. Make sure to hit that sub button, or if you're watching on TikTok, to subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss one of my reviews of X-Men the Animated Series. This channel does everything X-Men. Now, rightfully so, Wolverine in this episode is totally shook from having Proteus horrifically just morph his whole body in this horrific scene we had last episode that's straight from the comics. And it's so interesting because they put in this two-part story with Proteus in the show those horrific type images. I still can understand why they made the actual character of Proteus look like the Michelin Man and not the scary figure we see in the comics. I wish they had just kept that true because it would just make this so much more epic in my eyes. But we'll see Proteus with his story. It's really strong because he has these serious daddy issues continue, and he's looking now at the campaign office of his father, Joe. Now, the X-Men and Moira will figure this out and show up, and a lot of it is them settling his tantrums because, again, this is a kid they're dealing with in Proteus in Kevin. I love when Moira's like, "It's time to come home, Kevin," and Rogue's like, "It'll be okay, Kevin. Just listen to your mama." And I like that they gave Rogue a big part in this story because, as we see in this episode, she relates to Kevin's trauma of having a father abandon them. And it's tough for Proteus because he has to actually see these children that his father didn't disown that are non-mutant running around full of joy. I also like, though, that his current wife saw Proteus just walk through a wall and we never saw anything else after that. Like, how did the rest of her day go? What happened? That's a big thing to see. But we'll see Rogue is actually seeing through the vents Joe talking to his henchman and is telling him he does not want Proteus seen until the voting is done. Again, they're really highlighting how this man is a career man over his kid. And I love when Rogue is like, "Professor, we gotta change shifts. I need a shower after babysitting this slime." And it made sense they re-showed her thought and clip of her father disowning her with his belly hanging out because it wasn't seen in a while, and especially in a kid's show, it's a little more acceptable to just kind of throw a flashback we already seen again. Now, one of my favorite moments of the episode, I always love when Beast quotes something, and I love that he, at the town hall backstage, has a book, and he's quoting James Harvey Robinson, talking about political campaigns paralyzing man's own way of thinking. I thought that was so great. And now this is an episode where we're seeing a different Logan. He is so shook that he is jumping even at the sight of rats in this basement. And when Proteus actually shows up, Wolverine books it. But it's so strange that Proteus will put this hole in the floor and Charles is about to fall through it, and Logan just like magically appears and saves his life. So they don't actually really show a shot of Logan making the decision to run back, which I wish we saw. But it was a nice touch by the visual artists here that they had the waterfalls cascading like teardrops when Kevin was really upset during this scene. By the way, too, I always call this out, but I think it's hysterical that hole that Charles almost fell into, they still love to use the real flames, not animated flames, real life flames sitting in the hole. I do not know why they always do that, but it always makes me laugh and takes me completely out of it. Now, I'm so happy Rogue actually calls Logan out here for bailing on them, and Beast explains it as, "There's no emotion harder to control than a paralyzing fear," which leads a great Wolverine line where he says, "You saying I'm a coward, Blue Boy?" So good. Just great dialogue back and forth in this scene. Now, it's really sad when Proteus shows up and sees his father later on that night and says, "Father, everyone says you don't want to see me, but that can't be true." You see how heartbroken Kevin is, and it's hard to watch, honestly. But Wolverine books it again when Proteus shows up. But I love Charles in this episode. I love when he tells the X-Men to stand aside away from Proteus, and he says, "Let them talk," meaning Kevin and his father. But you see, like he always does, the dad runs away. He's scared off by Proteus. And what I also love about Charleston's episode is how protective he is of Moira and how much he doesn't want Moira to have to kill her own son because it's getting to that point. It's literally about to happen in this episode. And he says, "Let me try one last time." And I love this moment when he talks to Kevin. He says, "Possess me as you have others. Look inside my mind and see that I know your pain." This is great writing. It's a great moment, and this is another case of Professor X at his best. And it's very cool to see him and Kevin on this astral plane together, comforting Kevin with controlling his rage. It's always great to see Professor Xavier help a mutant accept who they are. Now he says, learn to trust mother and father. It leaves you wondering that line, though, when Charles says that, reaching out his hands, that maybe there is some shot here that he's actually Charles's son, and Charles doesn't even know that, or maybe he does, who knows? But I think that kind of leaves to have your theories there, especially because Moira and Joe both aren't mutants, so you're wondering maybe that mutant gene came from Charles, especially because of how powerful Kevin is. Now, Joe sees Proteus as Kevin, his son now, and he's like, can you forgive me? It's like, come on, man. It's hard to forgive that guy. But he does. You see that Banshee and Kevin are playing this game. It's like a board game that they're putting pieces together, and it's something you get frustrated at. So he's trying to control his rage better there, but they found a way to keep him at bay. But it's such an awkward ending because Logan's reflecting with Rogue on how Charles never loses his cool, and he admires that. It's like, how does he do it so easily? And Rogue's like, forget it, hun. In this business, we all get shook up now and again. And Logan's like, I don't, and walks off. That's the end of the episode. It's a very, like, abrupt ending. And it's interesting they didn't end with Charles kind of reflecting, so that was kind of strange choice to go the Logan route here. But it still was really solid, and it was interesting to see Logan kind of reflect on a situation where he didn't have his best day as an X-Man, but showing you how Rogue's saying it happens to everybody. But overall, this is a really good episode. I'm going to give it actually an 8.5 because of that really great moment with Charles talking to Kevin and having him see that he can feel his pain. I thought that was really cool and a standout moment for the show in general, and Beast has great lines. Logan has great lines per usual, and Rogue, having her be a character in this episode was really smart, again, because of her connection to the daddy issues that Kevin has. Let me know your thoughts down below. What did you think of this episode? I read every comment. I try to respond to as many as I can. Hit that sub button, and I'll see you next time.